in your life that you want to break away from and feel like you can't? Do you wonder, how can I be free from these issues that have destroyed my life? Well, my friend, I have the answer. Bible Way Hibner Memorial Church of God in Christ presents Chain Breakers, this and every Sunday at 9 a.m. here on WHYL.
From the L.B. Smith Ford Lincoln Studios, Oldies 102.9 is WHYL Carlisle.
Welcome to the Real Estate Radio Guys, your weekly source for all things real estate. We're your hosts, real estate broker John Rainville and your mortgage expert Kingsley Harmer discuss everything from mortgage rates to home staging for foreclosures and everything in between that affect the daily real estate market. Real people, real questions, real answers. Today's show is brought to you by www.pagoloan.com, your source for new mortgage loans. NMLS number 1018. EnviroQuest, trusted for home inspections and radon mitigation in Central PA for over 25 years. And brokersrealty.com, the easiest way to search for real estate in your hometown. Now, on to the show.
Good morning, everyone. It's John Rainville from brokersrealty.com, and
this is Kingsley with PAGoLoan.com. Good morning.
Good morning, man. Hey, we've got an exciting show today. Hey, it's a little bit dreary out there this morning, but it's getting towards fall. It's, I guess, officially a fall. I guess all our leaves will blow off maybe on Monday on that storm. But we've got a really interesting show today. We're going to be talking, HVAC systems, everything from propane, natural gas to solar, with Bob Carey from DeFleur out of New Cumberland. Great HVAC company. And we're going to be talking with John Stas later in the show again about radon systems and the new radon tax here in Pennsylvania that our government slipped in onto all of us, I guess, while we slept. So I don't know exactly who's responsible for it, if it's our very own Governor Wolf, if he did it somehow. But there's a new tax coming, folks, if you're getting a radon system installed. And it starts the 21st, so John Stas will be talking about that. What's going on in the world of lending that we want to talk about?
Well, there's reports out that says that, rates went up and mortgage apps went down, but I don't see it. Not here in Pennsylvania. Our rates actually dropped yesterday. We actually have a special going on between now and Halloween. So, I've had more applications in the last week than I think I had, all month. So it's kind of a crazy thing, but I'm not going to complain. So apps are up, rates are down, and we even have more programs out that just kind of opened up in the last couple of weeks. I know we kind of pointed on it before. So right now is the time to buy. It really is, still. I say it every week, but rates are down again.
Well, let's just talk a little bit about rates real quick here. So where are the rates right now?
Well, I would say your average is between 3.875 and 4.25.
That's like free money, dude.
It's, depending on the program, USDA, rates are low.
So, you can't drop that much, but it's a 15-year versus 30-year?
Maybe 3.5.
3.5 for 15 years.
Yeah.
That's
average.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's cheap money.
It is.
It really is cheap money.
It's so cheap that Uncle Al over here should refinance. What do you think?
We've got a 100% loan where you have to put nothing out of your pocket other than $1,000, for closing costs, depending on how you structure it, and the rate's 4.25.
Wow.
So you can't complain. If you're going to buy, now's the time. Stretch your money. Buy the house you want, because 2 years from now, when rates do go up, and inevitably they will go up. You're not going to be able to afford the same house, assuming you have the same salary, and assuming properties appreciate the way they have been over the last couple of years. Even
rates of a lifetime.
Yeah,
still,
it's crazy. So mortgage industry is great. Time to buy. Do it now. Get in before if you go out look for a house now, you can be in before Thanksgiving.
And this week, folks, we do have our Facebook Live up, and our cameras are working. We've got our sound working. We're starting to really get this down. So, you can go to www.facebook.com/Real Estate Radio Guys. And, hey, thanks for all the thumbs up there, guys.
Yeah, and go online because I'm going to sit here today and I'm going to play with some of the video screens and filters, etc. And you can kind of tell me whether or not I'm being over the top or whether it looks good. So please join us.
All right, so this morning we're going to be talking with Bob, and is Bob... Hey, Bob, good morning. How are you doing?
Hey, good morning, John. How are you?
Good. So I guess this isn't your first radio show.
Not my first rodeo either, so good to talk to you guys.
Yeah, nice talking to you, too.
And good news in the mortgage market and so forth. That's so encouraging, in our region where there's lots of bad news, so rate on taxes and things like that. But, home ownership is the American dream. And if it's attainable, I think it's a news that raises all ships, man.
Yeah, I mean, it will definitely help drive the economy. I mean, we are seeing that the building supplies are starting to definitely rise. I know wood products are starting to go through the roof at Home Depot and Lowe's and the supply houses. In the HVAC world, are you starting to see prices rise because of, the hurricanes in some of our areas? Is that making a pull on some of the products?
So far, that hasn't impacted us. I think the capacity of the manufacturers is such that, even a bump in demand, and this isn't the first bump in demand we've had. Some of our colleagues at the Jersey Shore were busy after Sandy, for example. So, but there wasn't any bump in the price of equipment because of that increased demand. So the good news is that equipment prices are pretty stable.
And what about
if you
oil?
shopped it a year ago or shopped it 2 years ago, they're pretty much where they've been.
So, we jumped right into things, Bob. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about the floor? I mean, I know I've had my company down there. We've done agent events right down there at your guys' headquarters. Can you tell us a little bit about your operations there?
Sure. So Daffler Heating and Cooling has been in business for about 39 years. I guess the second line says HVAC. What we like to do is ask people what the V in HVAC stands for, and people scratch their head. It actually means ventilation, which is something a lot of folks forget about. But honestly, our company, the internal discussion is, are we an HVAC company or are we an energy company that focuses on heating and cooling? And I would say, at least as long as I've been on board, the focus has been towards an energy company that focuses on heating and cooling. So we offer and install those boxes that you find in your basement or, outside your house, the air conditioners, heat pumps, and furnaces and things like that. But our focus is on saving energy at that pretty consumptive point in the, from the grid, so to say, which is why we're involved with solar in a big way.
The other week we had on an energy audit company, and they were explaining to our listeners that there's most of the utility companies, or at least the electric companies, are offering like a $250 rebate for someone to get an energy audit. So if they get an energy audit, then a company like you is who they could bring in then to help upgrade their system or whatever might be in order, correct?
That's true. And what has changed isn't the optics of the equipment. So the box outside your house, which could be an air conditioner or a heat pump, pretty much looks the same as they always have. It's a metal box with maybe you can see the fan spinning inside. But these days, rather than either being on or off, systems operate at variable speeds. So they only generate as much heating or cooling as demand inside the house requires. So you can kind of like a rheostat, you can adjust the amount of energy that you consume at the outside of the house to supply whatever the needs are inside. And shaving those energy costs is where 30% savings is easy to attain with newer equipment.
You guys sort of are like an all-in-one shop, though. You guys do geothermal, you do propane, oil, natural gas, and even solar. right? So, I mean, you guys cover it all. I mean, is there anything you don't cover?
I think our focus, I mean, so we do the so to say routine stuff that most homeowners and actually businesses would be familiar with and comfortable with. In recent years, we've been involved in some really interesting solar and geothermal projects. The interesting thing about solar and geothermal is in recent years, those programs have been driven by rebates and things like that. And so we find there's two kinds of customers for solar and geothermal particularly. And those are the folks who either want to be able to manage their energy costs because they're producing some of the energy, in their own backyard, or the folks who want to thumb their nose at the system and just kind of wean themselves from the grid. So we have a customer down in Fayetteville who likes to talk about her energy bill being $400. Now, that doesn't seem inexpensive to me, but then she goes, oh, by the way, that's for a year. So her consumption of energy from the grid, so to say, is $400 for the year because she has solar and geothermal on her property. And, oh, by the way, if the system goes down, she has a generator. So she has weaned herself off the system to the point where her only involvement is $400 a year.
Bob, it just comes to my mind. I mean, right now, are there any grants or anything, or is the federal government giving any tax breaks for people to put in any of these systems?
There are myriad, not myriad, that suggests way too many, but there are incentives, so to say, at state, federal, and utility levels. So the problem with that is that it's hard to paint with a broad brush depending on what kind of system you have, what kind of fuel you're using. So, for example, if you're using gas, converting from electricity or whatever, different utilities have incentives to help you make a decision about what kind of system or whether to upgrade. So one of the things that we do is we have folks who can absolutely help you navigate and figure out what that is. So there's no big surprise you put this system in and, oops, that isn't going to pay off anytime soon.
I know on the solar, it seems like there's a lot of these like Johnny-come-latelys to the party on the solar, and it seems like what they try to do is get everybody to put like the solar panels on the roof, but then they're going to somehow benefit because I guess they own the panels or something. You guys don't do that. The consumer actually pays for the panels, and then that's their equipment, correct?
That's correct. So you own the equipment that we put on the roof, and this Johnny-come-lately thing is not exactly accurate. So let me just talk about the system you own, and this is why it's important. Folks, for whatever reason, may say, hey, I have space and I think I'd like to go solar. And certainly we encourage that. Again, as an energy company interested in conservation, solar is certainly a viable alternative. But if you own the system, are we sure that this is going to pay off in a reasonable amount of time? We'll help you do those calculations so that you can make an informed choice. And again, some people want to do it because they just want to make sure that they have a predictable cost for some of the energy that they consume. Other people do it regardless of the cost just because they want to kind of wean themselves in the system or from the system. And I'll tell you, it's just as a matter of fact, we do a lot of those up in Perry County. Again, kind of like these people who just want to be off the grid. So they're off the grid, because Perry County is a little bit of the wilds of Pennsylvania, and because they feel more self-sufficient. The other side of that are the solar cities of the world. So these are called power purchase agreements. Basically, these companies, like Solar City, lease your rooftop space, and in exchange for that, will give you a predictable rate for your energy for the term of the lease. At the end of the lease, you have the option to buy the equipment. So for many institutions, think of churches and places like that, that kind of power purchase agreement is a great option. And even on our campus, some of the buildings commercial buildings would be better candidates for that than they would to actually own ourselves. Because, again, if you have a reputable company, the system is maintained by them. So you get the benefit really without any of the headache.
Yeah, but how much of a benefit are you really getting as a homeowner, I mean, not necessarily a business, from having to lease the panels versus having a normal, cost every month or going on a budget cost with your local energy supplier?
The benefit is that there's no cost to you to, you get solar on your roof. You don't lay out a nickel.
And are you actually getting a monthly savings from this? I'm just curious to see if there's a monthly savings.
Well, it depends on what energy costs are, and this is why I don't think I've mentioned savings so much with solar particularly. The benefit is that you have a predictable rate. And for homeowners, from figuring budgeting, if they do that, and again, for larger installations, say on a church or something like that, that predictability is really what they value.
Okay.
Now, presumably, it's at below whatever the grid costs are. But, and again, like mortgage rates and so forth, we expect that they probably will rise at some point in the future, whereas your rate will be level.
And with these costs, my understanding is with the federal government, et cetera, you get these rebates yearly. When you do these lease deals, you are basically signing over the rights to those rebates that you would normally get every year. Is that correct?
The folks whoever it is that put all that on the roof are the beneficiaries of all of those incentives. The incentive for you as a homeowner or a business is that there's no upfront cost, and that you have this predictable rate for the, really a reasonably long time horizon.
Okay. So there's no upfront cost, and you get predictability as far as what your costs are going to be over the coming years. And at the end of the term of this lease, you have the option to buy, and at that point, get whatever benefits there may be. With a typical solar panel, what is the lifespan of solar panels these days?
Another one of the challenges with talking about this at any particular time is the technology is improving almost monthly. So, over the course of the past 2 years that I've been looking at this closely, the capacity of a panel, what we as lay people see on the roof, has increased. The cost per panel has decreased. And from a labor and installation standpoint, whether it's a high-capacity or low-capacity panel, it takes as much effort to install it as for high or low capacity. So most folks are concerned about durability for starters, and these panels are remarkably durable. Down in Texas and Florida, if the roof didn't come off, the panels were still intact and functioning. So from the durability standpoint, they've got that pretty well nailed. And again, all the panels so far will deteriorate to a certain extent in terms of their output over the course of their lifetime. But once again, that has been improved considerably over the past few years. So, 30, 40 years is not unreasonable to expect.
Now, you obviously are keeping track of the technology coming in on a daily basis or yearly basis. I'm sure you're familiar with the Tesla panels or roof shingles that have come out recently. Have you had any experience with those?
We haven't. We've actually looked at that, kind of done looked at it for a standpoint of feasibility. Currently, like many new technologies, early adopters don't buy it because it's cheap. And currently, it's not competitive with the more conventional panels, which some folks, the beauty of the Tesla solar roof panel, or solar shingle, so to say, is that it kind of doesn't look like you have a bunch of panels on the roof. So it's, the benefit is aesthetic at this point. But it is enormously expensive. Again, our owner took a look at that, and there, for example, on his roof, there was the return on investment was such a long time horizon that he passed on it, and he would be willing to pay a premium just to play with it, so to say, but not quite yet. So currently, the more conventional sheet panels is where we're comfortable talking to people.
And real quick, with that same technology, the Tesla quote-unquote home battery that they have for your home, is that something that is a better functioning battery or backup system than what's currently used with traditional systems?
Yeah, so for when battery longevity and efficiency improves, it's going to change the whole game for solar. So currently the problem with solar is that we don't live in an environment like today. It's a cloudy, rainy day. You're not going to be generating anything from your solar panels. But, the panels may not be operating at the time of the day that you have the peak consumption, so on and so forth. So storage technology is going to be key to making panels really valuable to more and more people. And the folks at Tesla they somehow, I think their young engineers never realized what the limitations to battery technology are, so they just have busted through all of the limitations that we old folks think we know about batteries. They call their system a power wall, and currently it's deployed for folks who have Tesla vehicles, and it's basically their recharging station. But that battery capacity, which, by the way, they use in their vehicles, is two iterations beyond what most people are familiar with large storage batteries. And again, it's going to change the whole game for solar when they become more available and less expensive. And Elon Musk is making that his mission.
Bob, sort of going to the other end of the spectrum, I guess, is oil is still fairly expensive for heat. But is there any new technology up there? Have the oil furnaces gotten better?
They have. So the challenge with oil in the past is that it's somewhat dirty. It's been somewhat noisy. For many folks, again, depending on where you're situated, what part of the county or state or whatever you live in, oil is still a great option. You're essentially, if you have enough of a reservoir of oil, you're not connected to the grid, so you're not depending on a gas line or anything else coming into the house. So in a way, it's kind of helps with self-sufficiency. The technology improvements in oil furnaces is really in the combustion. So they've been able, just like carburetors in cars, have been able to improve combustion, therefore increasing efficiency and reducing pollution.
Bob, another question.
By the way, those oil furnaces are designed, if again you care to venture down this road, they'll burn conventional oil and they'll burn biofuels.
Oh, that's interesting. I remember a few years ago I was in a home, showing a home over in Dauphin, and that owner had like a tri-fuel setup. So, he could burn multiple different things to heat his home. Are there still setups like that out there?
There are, and we've worked with some homeowners, again, in similar situations where we've helped them hybridize their system. So there's folks who like to burn wood, and wood furnaces are more and more efficient. They still produce a lot of particulate matter, but nothing nasty from a chemical standpoint. And, connecting those to heat exchangers for heating your house, particularly in the winter, efficient heat exchangers and blowers so that you can push that through your duct system if you have a ducted system, is something that's feasible and in some instances economical. So if you have a good supply of wood, you can easily heat your house, or wood pellets. But wood that you can generate on your own, you can do that. Heat your shop, heat your house, heat your barn.
One of our Facebook listeners was just put up a question. If they live in a treed area, solar may not be a good option for them. Correct?
Correct. So there's an optimal kind of aspect, we call that. Where the panel is kind of intercepting the rays of the sun for the optimal amount of time during the day. So trees obviously are going to impair that. But I'll tell you, so one of the things that's interesting is that the older technology was such that if part of the panel was impaired by shade, the whole panel was unfunctional. So remember, most systems on the roof are more than one panel, right? But shading a portion of the panel would actually take the whole panel out of production. Now, with, again, a little bit of computer-aided technology, systems are able to generate electricity even from a portion of the panel. So, again, they've gotten more efficient and smarter in a lot of ways. Now, don't ask me how that works, but the fact is that you needn't have full exposure continually to have a functional panel.
So I just want to stick with the whole wooded area. Let's say we're in a rural area where we don't have a whole lot of options as far as alternative. So you're thinking maybe you have an oil tank, maybe a propane tank on the property. Solar, let's just say, is out. In a bad snowstorm, for example, and there's no power, what sort of heating source for somebody in that scenario would be ideal, other than wood burning?
I don't know if this is rhetorical, if you actually know the answer, but one of the systems that's extremely durable, I like it. I think that particularly for new construction, it's a great opportunity to take a look at this, before you start putting in turf and hardscaping and things like that, is geothermal. Geothermal, extraordinarily robust. Once it's installed, it'll last forever, simply because it's not exposed to the elements. And you can heat and cool with geothermal. In a storm, when the electricity's down, all you really need is a generator that can, and we're just talking about the heating cooling part right now, can operate the motor. So even a small generator with a geothermal system can keep you heated or cooled, and obviously the heating part is probably where we're more concerned.
Interesting, and I know that.
And by the way, so geothermal systems, again, easy peasy from a standpoint at new construction when you're just kind of working with a blank slate. But with vertical wells or horizontal wells, there's almost no retrofit that's not feasible. So even in relatively small lots, you can retrofit a geothermal system and get the benefits of that durability, and also again pretty much a predictable cost for your energy. It's pretty much just the cost of generating or operating the motors that push the pumps. So again, it's something that you don't have to be in new construction to consider. It works as a retrofit. And oh, by the way, there's ground source geothermal, and if you happen to have a adequate enough pond, you can use a water source geothermal. We installed the system this past year in an old quarry out in Mount Holly Springs.
Well, Kingsley wants to have a volcano pool, Bob. So I guess we might be able to do something with that then, right?
Well, if I can, get a quarry.
Well, radio people, they can use just a hot air system, and you just capture that stuff in the room,
Nice. So, real quick,
where's the rim shot?
One system we haven't talked about is pellet stoves.
Yeah.
What do you think about pellet stoves? What about their efficiency? A lot of people seem to want to go that route. And again, I look at it from a standpoint, if the power goes out, can I use it? And obviously a pellet stove, you still need a power source. But what are your thoughts on pellet stoves for those out there that are thinking about one?
So I can tell you at Daffler, we do not install pellet stoves, or we have hybridized systems with people, generally not with a stove, but with outdoor furnaces. So the pellet stove area is not our topic area. We have a great resource, I think, in the region. That's our friends at AES Hearthplace.
Bob, you guys have last time I was there several years ago, a fantastic showroom there in New Cumberland. Do you guys still run a program where realtors can bring their office to your showroom to educate the agents about the different systems that you guys offer?
Absolutely. And, some of the things that have become concerns in recent years, like these temporary power outages and power surges, are things that we can address so that they can be conversant with homeowners to, add a little bit of value to that relationship. So we absolutely do that. We actually had a program last month for some folks, and, we'll do it for a handful of people or a room full of people. So always happy to share the latest technology with realtors or anybody, builders that are interested.
Hey, real quick, because I don't want to. I got to keep going with the obscure, energy sources here. Have you done anything with wind? I know this is maybe not the most prevalent area, but I think there are some areas where wind energy can actually benefit. And I've seen a lot of really cool technologies come out with wind, and I know they started using them over in Europe. They're these little trees, and they look like trees from a distance, and every leaf per se on this tree is generating wind, and it doesn't take a whole lot of wind to actually spin these. Have you had any experience with wind energy in general?
We have not had any as a company. This is something that's interesting to me too. In our region, so as a homeowner, to put a wind generator in your backyard, like the trees for solar, there has to be sufficient wind and again, it doesn't need to be much. But in the yard that I'm sitting in right now, there's too many trees around to create a consistent directional type of wind. So in order to take advantage of whatever breeze there is, I'd have to have that elevated high enough that the township would send somebody over to complain about it. So it's actually township regulations which limit the installation of these things. Again, as they get more efficient, the feasibility of installing that in your backyard, so to say, becomes better. Currently, the place where these get a lot of use is because they're exposed and because they're not subject to the same regulations as a homeowner in a township would be, or in agricultural situations. So on farms, the windmill that used to just pump water now generates electricity.
Interesting. So I know there's a lot of listeners out there today that have questions about the system that they already have in place. And realtors, for that matter. And possibly, somebody's building a home and, wants to get some advice on maybe what system to put in a particular area. What's the best contact information for you if they've got questions?
The easiest way to find our contact information is simply go to our website. It's dafflure.com. The phone number is there. It's DAFLURE.com. And, our phone number's there. You can see some of the projects we've been involved with. There's some great videos of our folks explaining different kinds of systems, everything from system maintenance and upkeep to sustain warranties and things like that, to solar, geothermal, and some of these more exotic systems. And Dafflure.com, DAFLURE.com.
And I'm sure going into the winter months, people are concerned about, their costs. They're saying we're going to have a big winter or a big snow year. If they want to have their systems checked, is that something that you'll do just to see if perhaps maybe their unit's oversized for their house?
Well, if their system's oversized, that's another thing. We certainly can make sure that your system is operating at the manufacturer's specs so that it's operating efficiently. If you have a home with ducted systems, there's also issues with, airflow. I mean, that's probably the major problem for homeowners in terms of operating an efficient and healthy system. So we can, fairly easily diagnose a system and make any corrections, which is often simply cleaning and a little oil in the appropriate places. But again, we absolutely do that. In fact, like many companies, we offer a scheduled maintenance service. So we call it Comfort Club, and we certainly invite people to be part of that. But a one-time system check, just to make sure you're good to go, is easy to do too. DAFLURE.com.
All right, Bob, thanks for coming on today. I know I learned a lot. I know our listeners learned a lot, and obviously those that have questions, visit DAFLURE.com, DAFLURE.com, and get those guys out there and get your questions answered. Thanks again for coming on.
John.
Thanks, Bob.
Kingsley, so much.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Well, I just want to remind everybody that our Mega Open House event is still going on for the rest of the month. I think we have 9 Mega Open Houses this weekend. I think there are 5 today. You can go to www.brokersrealty.com, click on our open house link, see all the open houses that we have set up and scheduled, and see what their hours are. Most are open today and tomorrow from 11 to 2. Some do have some alternate hours, so please check there. And remember, if you go out to any of our mega open houses today from brokersrealty.com, morning, John, you'll be able to enter in for to win a complimentary vacation, 5 days, 4-night cruise, or a trip for 2 plus airfare to Vegas, 3 days, 2 nights, or 7-night resort stay. So all you've got to do is stop out to one of the open houses, enter to win. You can go to as many as you want. You can go to all of them. We'd love to see you out there today. So most of them start at 11 o'clock today.
11 o'clock's a good time. And if you haven't been pre-qualified yet, as everybody knows, in this market, you're going to have to act fast. Just had a client go out and look at a house. They just dropped the price the day before, and even before we got out there, it was under contract. So, make sure you're pre-qualified. Go to pagoloan.com. Let's get you pre-qualified. There's a lot of programs out there. Even if you think you don't have the money, check it out. Get pre-qualified today.
Awesome. Guess who's online? That's right. Knock, knock, knock. It's John Stas from EnviroQuest.
John, how are you?
Good morning, guys. How are you doing?
We're doing fantastic this morning. Our video's working. Our audio's working. We're looking good on the internet.
Awesome.
But so today, John, let's start off before we get into about the radon testing. Can you explain to our listeners and to the realtors out there in our audience about just what just transpired that we were talking about last night?
Yeah. So 2 days ago, we got a letter from the state radon office, the DEP division, that starting next week, or starting the 21st, any radon system installed, including a full system or a passive system activation where you have the piping, they're going to start charging a $50 tax per system. So it just went from 0 to 50 real fast.
How many systems are installed in a year? I mean, radon systems in the state of Pennsylvania. Is there a guess?
Well, the state of Pennsylvania is one of the high radon states. Somewhere between 50 and 70% of structures have elevated radon. So there's a lot. I know our company, we install between roughly around 6 to 8 a day. So,
Really?
I mean, we're talking just
day.
using your company's numbers, just roughly, just snapping it in my head. We're talking like $150,000 a year in tax just from you guys.
yeah, and that's just, there's other costs or burdens on us, associated with it, including, the administration of whatever paperwork we're going to need to fill out and making.
Absolutely, the
There's
reporting,
administrative-
everything. It's gonna add cost to everything. Wow. So, was this something that the legislature did, or do you know, is DEP just allowed to all of a sudden, put this tax out there? I'm just finding it crazy that this popped up.
Yeah, because there was we had no warning. It seems different than the way things are usually done. Usually, when the DEP is going to change something in regards to their radon regulations, they'll have forums and they'll say, hey, next year we're thinking about changing this. Do you have any feedback? And they'll start sending us letters like a year in advance to get feedback from the mitigators, the people that do the work. Usually the communication is really, above average from the department. And, they do listen to our feedback and before they change anything. But this just came all of a sudden, so
wow, somebody's.
I'm not sure where it came from because there was no warning.
Yeah, because normally when you would put in one of those systems, there's not even sales tax because it's installed, correct?
Yeah. Well, in Pennsylvania, we're providing a service, so we pay tax to our vendors, and then when you provide that service and install the system, it's not a taxable item.
Right, so we're not getting double taxed on it, but this is a huge tax. Average cost of a system, John?
Yeah, for a basic system is around $800.
So this is
to $900.
So
depending
this
on the
is
layout of the home.
This is a 6% levy on those. I think a levy is more accurate than a tax. What do you think, Kingsley?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the fact that it was snuck in there, it just, everything's got to be just snuck in there. You just add taxes and add taxes and add taxes. It's crazy. It really is.
Yeah, well.
Did you hear about the new tax that they're coming up with, that they're contemplating, that they're going to attach to your neck so that every breath you take you're going to get taxed?
Hey, that's a great idea. And maybe a water tax too for.
I think they already have
people
that.
Need to consume water. Yeah. But it's it's kind of surprising that it came about because the state spends a lot of money in advertising. Every year they have advertising outreach. They provide a lot of services to try to promote people to get their radon fixed. Education. In some cases, promotional radon testing canisters are provided in certain areas, and certain people they're provided to. So it's surprising that if they're trying to promote people to install the systems, as a public service, which is what they're supposed to do, public service, this will have, in a slight way, the opposite effect of making, just a slight edge of affordability a little bit less for some people that may, they're on the border, should I do it? And then the extra costs may sway them not to do it, after all the outreach that the state spends, education and whatnot.
So, John, let's go on to the radon testing. Is that, if you can explain to our listeners how your firm does that and what's involved and what the levels are.
Sure. So we provide radon testing services, but if you just want to find your radon level, you don't really need to have a certified tester come out to your house. You can purchase a radon canister from a number of avenues. The box stores have them. We'll sell you a canister if you like. You can call our office. We'll mail you one. And then you just follow the instructions and follow the instructions carefully. It's a 2-day test minimum. So you you want to test. An interesting little tidbit on the radon testing, the state of Pennsylvania has its own testing regulations. So they're a little bit stricter than the EPA regulations. The EPA says the lowest lived-in area of your home, which would normally be like your first floor, because unless you have a finished basement where you live, the DEP says lowest livable. So that means if you have an unfinished basement that can be easily turned into living space, they want you to test there. So the state of Pennsylvania has its own set of regulations that are a little more conservative than the EPA regulations.
So, which takes precedent there? I mean, is there a national standard yet for radon?
Yeah. Well, the EPA has a standard, but then the DEP has their own standard for the state of Pennsylvania, which is very, very similar but slightly stricter. So you defer to the state. So we're under the guidance of the state regulations here in Pennsylvania. Other places, other states that don't have their own regulations, they follow the EPA.
Real quick question: the $50 tax, is it taxing the installation? Is it taxing the unit or equipment that's being bought? What exactly about this is being taxed?
It's taxing the installation. So every time we install a system, that the $50 tax is due. So it just basically, and that includes a passive installation as well. So that's even a higher percentage rate. A passive system can be around $400 to $600, depending on the fan size and how much ceiling. So $400 to $600, and then a $50 tax. So it's both the full installation where there's no builder installed piping where we put the full system in, or the passive. So
please help me and our listeners understand, when you put a radon system in, what's the first step? I mean, is there drilling involved? I mean, what happens when you're putting a system in?
Sure. So the homeowner does a test, and they find they have elevated radon level, and then we do an assessment of the property to determine the system design and to determine, do they have a passive pipe in the house. If they have a passive pipe, we determine if it's usable, and if it is, then it usually saves a couple $100. The passive pipe is a pipe that runs from the basement up through the house, through the attic. So we determined that was installed properly and in good shape. We cut the pipe in the attic, install a fan, run the electric, caulking and sealing in the basement, any necessary drains, sealing, or sump sealing to make sure that the system is compliant with the DEP regulations on how they're supposed to be installed. And then once the system's installed, it only takes a couple days. Then when we do it, we provide included in the cost as a post-test kit, a self-test. So then you wait a couple days, do the post-test, drop it in the mail, and then most of the systems we install, we give you a guarantee of the level. So we give you a set price on most of the houses, unless they're a little tricky, but most of the houses will give you a set price, then the level is guaranteed for 10 years. So if you do a test at some point after the install, 2 years down the road, and the level is elevated, we'll come out, troubleshoot it under the warranty, and then give you another post-test kit.
Interesting. So if I were somebody that didn't like government, and of course that's not me, I would never say that, and I didn't want to pay a $50 tax, and I said, hey, John, I don't need you to install a system for me. I just need you to come out and drill a hole and point me in the right direction to get this equipment. Is that something a homeowner can or should do for a $50 savings, or really just have you install it and make sure there's no issues?
Yeah, the safest bet, we get a lot of, not a whole lot, but we do get some where the homeowner's installed the system and the level's still elevated, and they say, hey, I give up, we need you to come out and look and see what we did here and get it fixed. So we do get that sometimes. I mean, I also have seen where homeowners installed a system themselves and it has worked. So We get both scenarios. But the thing about it is that a lot of times, if you're buying the equipment and the stuff at a box store, we get the stuff discounted. So, a lot of times with the time and effort, and you look at how much we're charging, we get a lot of people that say, hey, we looked into all the costs of the pipe and how much time it's going to take me, and I got to rent a core drill. We just want you to do it.
So basically, have the professional installed. I mean, the whole reason we're doing it is for safety and to eliminate the gases, correct? So let's just have it done for $50. It's not worth your health. It's not worth the issue. So,
there's some, a lot of systems, they are fairly straightforward. You do get some that are really tricky, and that's where we rely on years of experience. We keep detailed records. This house over here, we ended up having to do this, so we see the same situations occurring. So we know how to treat the different types of houses and houses that may be a little tricky to get the level down.
Interesting. So what is the best way to get a hold of you if they want to have this tested? I mean, is there still time to get one installed so they don't have to pay the $50?
Yeah, I think we do still have a couple openings, but it starts on 10/21. Any system installed on or after 10/21. So the best way to contact us, 717-233-6144.
And, of course, you're online at evqharrisburg.com, and I know you have a Facebook presence as well, correct?
That's correct.
All right, John, as always, thanks for coming on. Thanks for telling us how scary it is that they can, get taxes passed without anybody knowing. It's been exciting.
Have a great week, John.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Talk to you next week, guys.
So, really, how do you pass a tax?
I don't know, because I put it up on the Central Pennsylvania Realtors website, on the Facebook group last night, and nobody knew.
That's a lot of money, dude.
Yeah, they just slipped this in under cover of darkness.
And where's this money going?
Well, I think it's going to be earmarked for the governor's shortfall. He's trying to lease the farm show building. I don't know why he doesn't just lease out the governor's mansion.
I don't know why we just don't get rid of the management that we have, because they obviously can't run a budget. In any event.
Well, okay, back onto real estate, though. So next week, guys, we're going to have on Colebrook Construction. Mark Milosevic is going to be talking to us about remodeling. He's one of the biggest remodelers in, central Pennsylvania, Colebrook Construction. And I know he's won numerous awards for, kitchens, baths, finished family rooms, things like that. So, that'll be an interesting show.
Yeah, and I think hopefully next week, knock on wood, we'll actually hopefully have some show and tell on our live Facebook. So hopefully we're going to be able to feed in some examples, some past work, and ideas for those that are thinking about getting some remodeling done, just so we've got some visuals. So we're trying to push our Facebook.com/Real Estate Radio Guy. So please pass the word. Join us next week, and hopefully we'll have a lot of good visuals for you.
Well, I want to just remind everybody, we've got the mega open houses today, so if you want to enter for a vacation, definitely, a reason if you're out driving by and you see some of our blue and white, mega open house signs, swing in, introduce yourself, mention to them that you heard us, on the radio or on Facebook. Tell them the Real Estate Radio Guy sent you. It won't get you anything extra, but at least we'll know that you heard us on the radio.
Well, maybe perhaps, an autograph.
Yeah, well, we could always send them something
we
like
give
that.
an autograph.
That's right. Maybe we'll get coffee cups for next year.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah.
Coffee cups?
Yeah. On the front of investing and or mortgages, I'm very happy to say that GSF Mortgage is now offering a mortgage product if you're looking to build. that you can actually, veterans can get 100% purchase on a new build construction, including land of their own if they want to find their own plot of land.
So wait, let me get this straight. So we can go out as realtors, we can find the lot, and we can help them put it together with the builder, and they can get 100% financing?
And it's only a one-time close.
A one-time close.
And it's done in 30 to 45 days as far as the qualification and closing. And then at that point, what the beautiful thing is for the buyer is during the construction phase, let's say it's a new build, it could be a manufacturer, it could be modular, and we've had several modular builders on. During that whole phase, the buyer, even though you've closed, and you bought the house, you pay no payments until the house is built, until you move in. And that's it. You close once. You don't have to qualify for the land loan. You don't have to qualify for the construction loan and then worry about getting what they call the takeout loan, which is wrapping it all into one in the end. It's all done once. The qualifications are about the same, pretty much the same. It's all the same guidelines as it would be for a VA. And we're also doing it for FHA for 3.5% down.
Wow. So a regular draw type construction loan?
That's on the back end for the builder. The builder gets the draws. It's already been funded. The buyer has to do nothing. All they do is pick the house they want, the upgrades, what layout they want. They qualify like they would with a normal loan with us, an FHA, VA, even USDA loan if you've got good credit.
That's fantastic.
So you can do that with 100%. Same guidelines. You can even have, depending on the builder, pay for some of the closing costs like you would any other USDA, VA, or FHA loan, and you can get a new build and pick whatever it is you want. And again, this will work with custom build as well, because if you've found that one plot of land that's not in a development, okay, and you have that land under contract, if any of you have tried to get a land loan, you have to put usually a sizable amount down. Well, this would just be rolled into the one closing. So all you would need is 3.5% of the total building cost.
Do I have any payments during construction?
Zero.
Zero payments during construction?
Until the house is done, you move in, you don't pay a thing. You close your loan once, you put your closing costs, your down payment.
Wow, that's sweet.
And then the builder handles everything from the back end and obviously gets your house done. And the builder at that particular point is incentivized to get it done quicker. So for you get a brand new home that you get to design and put upgrades in and qualify for the same mortgage.
Wow. I mean, what a country.
PAGoLoan.com.
If you're looking for the open houses, brokersrealty.com. We've got a new open house tab there on our site. And so next week we're going to have Colebrook Construction on. So till next week.
Real questions?
Real answers?
Real people. Close enough. See you guys next week.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Real Estate Radio Guys with John Rainville and Kingsley Harmer. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit PAGoLoan.com, BrokersRealty.com, and Facebook.com/Real Estate Radio Guy. If you enjoyed the episode, please rate and review, and we'll catch you next time on the Real Estate Radio Guys.
The closing's on.
From the L.B. Smith Ford Lincoln Studios, Oldies 102.9 is WHYL Carlisle.